Today we have returning guest to the program and friend, Anthony Sabatini. How you doing, sir?
Never been better. How about you, buddy?
Doing well, and it's great to have you back. Things have changed since we last spoke. You have announced your run for U.S. Congress. Tell us why you've made this decision.
Well, we got to get stronger conservatives in, first of all. I mean, just to give you a perfect example, last night, Republicans who control the entire House just voted to, and this was their first offer, right, as conservatives, was to increase the budget and spending in the budget by $16 billion over the next $16 trillion over the next decade. So we just don't really have Republicans in office who are willing to fight, other than maybe a handful. And of course, a few voted against that very liberal plan. But we need stronger America First Republicans who believe in freedom, believe in family, Western civilization, American sovereignty, and they don't exist yet. Certainly not the Republican who occupies the seat I'm running for, Dan Webster, who is just a sort of a neocon, outdated hack who's been in office since 1980, since Jimmy Carter was president. So it's just time for new blood and stronger leadership.
So you're going up someone against somebody who's been there for quite a while. That's what, 43 years? Is it 43 years in
Yeah,
office?
various political offices
Yeah.
from state house, state senate, different things, Congress later, but in office since 1980. Definitely somebody that is part of the emergence of the dominant cultural left in this country and did nothing about it, cared nothing about it.
Why is it so hard with all the outrage that people have, independents, people disaffected with the extremism of the left in the Democrat Party even? Why is it so hard to get legitimate, challengers to the status quo? I mean, how much does it cost to buy off a congressman?
Well, actually, money is not really an issue in this case. Most of the time, they're insulated with enormous amount of political donations and sort of borrowed in. But Webster's actually a terrible fundraiser. He almost lost his last primary. In fact, I outraised him by 40% just with small dollar donations last cycle. But of course, I didn't run against him last cycle. I ran for an open seat, a new seat that was in Central Florida, and got second in an 8-way race. But had I ran against Webster, I would have taken him out. The truth is, we all thought it was going to be his last term. And now he's told folks he's going to run again, which is just sort of embarrassing because he's very, very unpopular in the district. And, people kind of let him get a final term in, but don't expect him to return this year. So he's trying to, apparently.
That's Congressional District 11 here in Florida. Tell us about this district. You're the chairman of the Lake County GOP. Is that in this district?
Yeah, it's about a third of the district. So it goes from the villages, the retirement community, to Disney World. It's essentially cut in three. It's West Orange County, which is Disney, Windermere, Winter Garden, Apopka, and then 1/3 of Lake County, almost all of Lake County, which is the next county west. And then far to the west is the villages in Sumter County, which is, of course, the biggest retirement community in the United States.
What do you think the biggest issue is going to be in the primary that's going to make the decision for folks that come out?
I think somebody who is willing to get up there and stop the weaponization of government, stop the increase of this anti-American hostile government, somebody who's going to stand up against CRT and anti-white racism, somebody that's going to take on the deep state and the national security state, and none of those things can positively be answered in a way that's popular with the primary voters by Dan Webster. He's certainly not somebody that agrees with any of that. In fact, just the other day, he voted with some Republicans to keep an indefinite amount of troops in Syria for a war that most people don't even know exists, because he was told to by people who work in the Department of Defense. And so that sort of lack of independent thinking and that sort of control and controlled by our deep state agencies is another reason why it's just time for him to go.
Yeah. It's it's pretty disturbing to see how united the parties really are on almost every issue that matters in terms of affecting our lives and the cultural insanity, the economic insanity that's going on. You mentioned Disney as part of this district, Disney World. That's been in the news again with Ron DeSantis, the governor, punching back with their last minute move they did with the Reedy Creek district. Can you tell us your thoughts on that whole ongoing saga? What's going on with that?
Sure. Well, me and Webster are pretty much opposite on that. I've been probably the strongest, loudest voice on taking on Disney and all woke corporations with the political power we have here in Florida from the get-go. And Webster has been the opposite. In fact, when he was in the state house, he catered so much to Disney, they named a road after him. He's big on corporate welfare and putting corporate woke interests above the families in his district. And that's sort of a continuous theme for him. But going forward, you know, Disney is finally trying to punch back a little bit more now. So they sued DeSantis yesterday, what I would probably describe as a frivolous lawsuit. I don't think there's much merit to it. It argues that the state of Florida has retaliated against them, but in order to fulfill the elements of retaliation based on First Amendment grounds, they'd have to be given some sort of public service that that they're generally entitled to, and what they've had all these years are really heinous special privileges that most companies don't have. So they have no ground to stand on when it comes to arguing that they were deprived in some way of a benefit that they are entitled to or denied due process. So I think it'll be thrown out pretty quickly. In addition to that, you know, I think we're still really being way too soft on Disney. I mean, they're not even talking about closing what's called the combined reporting tax loophole in Tallahassee, which is a loophole that allows Disney to claim a lot of its profits are made over out of state in places like Delaware, so they can underreport the amount of money they make in the state of Florida to Florida state government. That's a problem, and that's a loophole that can be closed very easily. The state of Texas closed the combined reporting loopholes years ago, along with every other Republican state, not because they're super pro-tax, but because they know that closing those loopholes allow us to cut taxes for the working class and middle class Americans who are the bulk of the Republican Party. And so Florida has been asleep at the wheel and hasn't done that yet. So I still think that Tallahassee and the governor are dealing with Disney with very much kid gloves, if you ask me.
Not enough teeth to what they've done so far.
Not even
Speaking
close.
of woke corporations, the big news this week we've heard is Tucker Carlson's firing from Fox News. Apparently, Rupert Murdoch was involved with this decision. There's rumors and different reports coming out from different folks saying they're in the know that it had something to do with Tucker's mention of spiritual warfare in his Heritage Foundation speech on Friday, right before he was fired. Others have mentioned other issues going on. How do you assess this moment? Is this a big moment in media?
I think it's probably the most significant thing to happen in the media or in American politics since 2020's election or January 6th, or perhaps even further back. Tucker is the single most powerful, influential, and I would add correct voice on American politics to emerge in the last 10 or 20, perhaps 30 or 40 years. And he was a singular voice on that network and on any network. And him being purged, obviously, no matter what pretextual reasons emerge about, you know, mentions of maybe religion or various things, none of that is new language, so I don't buy any of it. I think that doesn't really matter. I think what really matters is the effect of it and the effect that they sought. And the effect of it is that the single most singular voice on America First movement, American sovereignty, on Western civilization, on against anti-white racism, for a nationalist populist movement to arise and reclaim common sense in this country, is now gone from the biggest network in the country. So that's what they saw. That's what they got. And we all know that basically what that means is Fox News is going to be working against us, the people, in the 2024 election. I mean, they already are. In fact, they had what's his name, Brian Kilmeade, host his hour to add injury to insult, somebody that's been really just a status quo sort of follow the crowd, safe sort of boom, you know, neocon Republican talking point positions, sort of Hannity-esque, since he's ever since day one that he joined Fox News. So that to me shows there's going to be a huge reversion to the Fox News you saw after 9/11, you know, sort of an outdated internationalistic, globalistic, and just rapidly out of touch Republican Party talking points sort of network. And that's what most of it was, aside from Tucker. So very, very, very important movement. And I think Fox News needs to be destroyed. I think it should be boycotted. I think a boycott of Fox News would be bigger and more important than Anheuser-Busch by tenfold. So I think that's what needs to happen, needs to be brought to heel.
Yeah, it looks like the conservative movement and the Republican Party have considered themselves to be lucky and happy to be the junior partner in the uniparty establishment. They're like, we don't mind winning. We don't mind losing for the next a decade, as long as we get to have a part of the grift that gets handed out in the military industrial complex, pharmaceutical complex, the whole 9 yards. It seems like that's the play here. We don't mind being the junior partner.
Yeah, that's it. They like where they're at. It's quite cozy. And, until their voters start throwing them out, which happened, of course, in various waves, 2010, 2016, various other select primaries and some of the elections around those times, they won't really respond. So we'll see what happens.
Well, very good. Anthony Sabatini, it's always great to talk to you. When is the primary date, and how can people follow what you've got going on?
So we like to get in the election very early. So it's actually August 20th, 2024. So we got a long ways to go, but definitely need as much help as we can get. SabatiniForCongress.com. You can call me anytime, 352-455-2928 to talk about the issues, and would love to, earn the support of everybody. And of course, we do have a little bit of your home county, Polk County, just a small slivers in the district. We have the city of Polk City in there, and some of the rural areas around it. So
very good. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you. Take care.